Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Flewfie's Adventure, a super cute twin-stick shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developers Cosmic Boop and Valorware, Flewfie's Adventure originally released in September of 2021 for the PC. Now fast forward to June of 2022, and it just released for the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we're looking at today. So as you might tell from the title screen, this title is definitely on the cute side. As far as the shoot 'em up action is concerned, it's a relatively light and easy twin-stick shoot 'em up with a fair bit of exploration and puzzle elements to it. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, then this is a title I would recommend checking out, as I've quite enjoyed my time with it, and I also consider it to be a really great value given the price point. So with all that said, diving into the game itself, when you start the game, you're given the choice to create a new game or of course continue a title or rather a save you've already started. And as you can see here, I've already put a fair bit of time to it, so the game does have some length. There is 3 difficulty settings that you would be given the option to select, and you can only select the difficulty when you start a save, so do keep that in mind. Easy, normal, and hard, and even playing it on normal, the title is definitely leaning towards the easier side of things, so do keep that in mind. Starting the game, so there would be a lot of story elements if you were just firing the game up for the first time, but where I've put a fair bit of time into it, those have largely been taken care of. But you'll be dropped into, after the story, you'll be dropped into this little exploration overworld where we run around with our character Flewfie. Wait a second, this doesn't look like Flewfie. So a little bit of spoilers here. We do end up having the ability to play as the antagonist in the game past a certain point. So this is our character Yuzu, who we're playing as. They're kind of like an evil, like a chaotic cat that uses chaotic enemy or energy on the various enemies throughout, but that's not necessarily here nor there. So in this world we can kind of talk to all these characters around here. There's certain quests to complete. There's a card game within this game that you can play, something kind of like triple triad light is a good way to look at it, I suppose. But most importantly, you can select stages. So in each of these various overworlds, you'll have a progression of the stages you'll go through. So there's usually 5 stages with several bosses sprinkled in between. So we'll start by showing the game off in stage 1. When you begin the game, you start off on foot, but not for long. Your UFO will be just a little bit to our right, and this is our UFO. So the game is a very standard twin stick. We use one stick to control the direction of movement, we use the other stick to fire, and our shots will come out as soon as we start firing. But as I mentioned, there's also some fair puzzle elements throughout the course of this game. So like this one here, not very difficult. We have a door down here that's shut, and we have a switch up here. Shoot the switch, door opens, bam, we get the coin. So there's also collectibles in every stage. There's 5 coins to collect throughout the course of the stage. There's a map that you need to collect, and there's also a secret puzzle room you can find where you can unlock what's called a bun drop. Getting the 5 coins as well as unlocking the bun drop is what's necessary to 100% a stage. So, as I mentioned, there's some RPG elements. As we play the game, we're gaining experience from the enemies we defeat, and we'll be leveling up. Those level ups do manifest in various stats. So pausing here, we can see at level 48 we've got a fairly high max health and a bit of attack. So they'll start very low, and you'll just increase as you play through the game itself. So in the first stage, these enemies go down very, very easily, and they can't really deal much in the way of damage. So each stage you play will have a map in it, and once you've unlock the map, you can pull it up and you can see here the area that you're playing in. Now, the first stage is relatively simple and direct, but some of the later stages get significantly more complex with a lot of like backtracking and exploration. So if that's something you like, then this would be another reason to check this one out. Throughout the course of all the main stages, we will come across a gloop who's basically hosting this puzzle stage. And this one here is very much tutorial. It's teaching us how to use our tractor beam. So we use the tractor beam to haul this orb up. There's like some sections where we can't use the tractor beam through, but in the case we're just getting that orb to that trigger, and it unlocks this particular cage so we can rescue this bun drop. Having already done that, the bun drop just looks like a shadow, but you kind of get the idea. So we'll move real quick to the right. The UFO does have a boost, and you can charge up to 3 boosts at a time. The boost will not avoid damage, so that's something to keep in mind. But they do recharge quickly. So it's the one way we have to get around relatively fast. But it's not quite enough. It would be nice if we could just move the UFO a little bit faster. In some of the larger stages, we move just a little bit too slow to get through it in what I feel to be an efficient manner. So we've already made it to the end of our first stage, and when you come to the end of a stage, you'll usually have a door blocking your way to the portal. And there'll be either like a larger version of enemy with a lot of health, or a mob of enemies, or both to take out. So if we take this guy out, we'll unlock that door and we can complete the stage. It gives you a tally of your progress and you move on. There is a reward for completing each stage 100%. The stages will have a treasure chest next to them with an upgrade item that for either your character or your ship, which basically amounts to the same thing. To upgrade the UFO, we come over to these characters, Tinks and Tinka. Unfortunately, it's not possible to do this without directly talking to these characters, so that's a bit cumbersome. And here's our upgrades for our cute little UFO. So there's 18 different parts in each of these 4 categories, and there'll be the antenna here, and the antenna upgrades our attack. So even though there's different looks and some really cute aesthetics there, you kind of want to go with the last one you picked up, as that's the most powerful. Then we've got the body of the UFO, which increases, in some cases, our attack and defense, or just straight up defense. There's the dome of the UFO itself. This is straight defense. And then last but definitely not least, we have our shot. So this will change the look of our shot, and in some cases the shot itself will be different. So instead of being a straight shot, it'll be a spread. And there's also some a special attack that you can activate once you've charged up enough shots. So the Crystal Heart, for example, is one that's a straight shot, and we'll be seeing that in just a moment, but there's also the Shooting Star, which is a spread shot. So once we've got this selected, our UFO's ready to go, but we're not. So coming up to this character, Bun Bun, we can upgrade or deck out our character, in this case, like Yuzu, or if you were playing through as like Flewfie, then you'd have like Flewfie as well, with these awesome, cute costumes. And once again, you'd want to go and pick the costume that has the best stats, but you could also go with something cute, like these demon horns, and maybe this like vampy cloak. So with our character prepared, let's show you a boss. And just to make the fight last a little bit longer, and so we can also see more of the cute worlds, I'm going to go to the main world map here, and here we can see that the game actually has a fair amount of worlds for a relatively small title like this one. There's 5 worlds plus like and then a boss fight, and then another world after that, so 6 worlds total. That's a lot of gameplay. So here we find ourselves in the second world, Candyverse, and I just love the aesthetic of this one. It's just super pastel pink and full of candy, and just look at how cute these bun drops are. They're adorable. So the NPCs in here, you can, as I mentioned, talk to them to go and play the card game. But we're not really here to focus on that. We're here to focus on the shoot 'em up part. So if you have a number next to the various stage portals, it'll be a full stage itself. But if it's a skull, it's a boss. And if we can see the name of the boss there on the stage title. So this is Rotten Ruler. So one thing that is neat about this title is it does allow for co-op, although it doesn't mention that anywhere. How do you activate that? Simply have a second controller turned on and have that player press start. Bam! They end up basically as a clone of Flewfie, and you can also upgrade their UFO and equipment the same way with what's been unlocked. So Rotten Ruler here is the final boss for the second world. And there's of course some story going on. We'll skip that and start the fight. So as you can see here, the Crystal Heart is a straight shot, whereas the Star is a spread shot, and they kind of deal damage accordingly. So this fight itself is actually a multi-tiered fight. Once we defeat Rotten Ruler for the first time, which is relatively simple, we actually have this awesome little sweets mecha that is nice and goopy, and the first time you fight the boss at the level that's intended, the fight actually takes a fair bit of time and can be a bit challenging. So if you're taking damage, there's these handy containers in the boss fight and throughout the various stages that have hearts. These hearts can heal you if you use the tractor beam to suck them up out of the container and into your UFO. So with a little bit of effort, using the special attack, which you charge up by hitting the enemies, will defeat Rotten Ruler and move on to the next stage. And that's basically Flewfie's adventure served up for your enjoyment. A lot of the game is just kind of like rinse and repeat, and then you just move on to the next world. One of the fun elements, though, is that throughout the course of all this, you're unlocking new elements for both your UFO as well as the character, and getting to see what's next is part of the appeal, in my opinion, for this kind of a title. So in this world, all the various elements are like robots. We've got this sad robot over here, happy robots, and then our characters, the ones that upgrade our UFO and our costumes, do come with us throughout the course of our journeys. There's also Scientist Snell here. He's actually the one that invented the UFO that we're flying as. So selecting the stage Tower Gardens, we'll kind of start to wrap things up. So as far as the plus and minus flavors for this title, so there's a few things that I do take issue with. So you didn't really see it in the first couple of stages that we were playing, but now that we're in this stage, even though we're at such a high level, these enemies are still a fair bit tanky, and that's one thing that I have an issue with, is the game kind of pads itself out by just having these long stages where you need to constantly backtrack to get through the stage. These enemies that are super tanky and throw lots of shots at you, and it can get a little bit feel like a bit of a slog. It is nice that you're leveling up throughout the course of the gameplay, but sometimes it can just drag on just a bit. Also, the stages themselves are actually quite large, as you can see here from the map, and I'll say for the first few, they'll take you a little bit of time to get through, with a lot of puzzle solving, basically just moving blocks back and forth, finding enemies you need to defeat to unlock doors, finding switches you need to defeat to unlock doors, that sort of thing. And it starts to feel kind of samey after a while. And then the last minus flavor I have, the enemies' shots, your shots, a lot of the action kind of does lack impact. It doesn't really feel like you're doing much to the enemy. They just kind of fade away after they've taken lethal damage. When they hit you, it's just minor bit of damage on there, and just doesn't feel substantial, I guess. which is a little bit of a letdown. But on the plus side of things, the game itself does have a lot of great value. So the price point is relatively low, and it has a bit of length to it, and which is appreciated. And there's also those RPG elements that I was kind of discussing earlier, with your character leveling up. In addition to that, we can look at the upgrades for the UFO and our character as basically equipment that you would get in an adventure type game, just making yourself better. And then really at the end of the day, one of the things that I've just enjoyed the most about this title is just how cute it is. So I love the color palette that's at use here. I love the cute characters and all the various like upgrades, and even just how cute the stages themselves look. This is a title that I've really enjoyed playing through, just because it was just kind of like fun, lighthearted, and cute, even if it does have some issues. So there you have it. Flewfie's Adventure served up for your enjoyment. Definitely a really cute, sweet trip that probably isn't for everybody, but one that, especially given the relatively approachable price point, I really enjoyed. Alright, well, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.